Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. I'm Mike Catalano. We have a special guest with us. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment if you like our content here. We always appreciate it. Hey, we're going to hear about the New York Jets this week, and we've got a guy who knows that team, knows that fan base well. Dan Leberfeld, Jets Confidential, the publisher, also the co-host of press coverage on Sirius XM with the guy everybody here knows, Vic Carucci of the Buffalo News. Dan, welcome to the program.
It's always great to be on with you, Mike, and always great to be on in Rochester, my home away from home. As you know, and some of the people in the audience might know, Jets Confidential is based in Rochester and has been for a long time.
Yeah, I know you've spent some time here. I know this really is the place you want to be, but that's okay if you're down in the tri-state area. We'll let you cover the Jets down there. Let's get it started with this. Everybody wants to know about Kurt Warner, aka Mike White, right? Tell us about this guy and tell us what Bills fans likely, as we get to Sunday, are going to see as the quarterback for the Jets.
This is a player who, after he was waived by the Dallas Cowboys at the end of the 2018 training camp, he had been a fifth-round pick of Dallas out of Western Kentucky. After 1 year, they moved on at the quarterback position. Jets GM Joe Douglas jumped on him, and he's been around for 2.5 years now, on and off the practice squad in 19 and 20. And this year they made him the primary backup, which tells you that they had a lot of confidence in his ability. I wouldn't say confidence in his ability to do what he's doing. I mean, they went out and got Joe Flacco in a trade, so clearly they were hedging their bets. But over the 2+ years I watched him in practice, very smooth going through his progressions, good pocket presence, sees the field well, gets a lot of receivers involved. It's not too big for him. The question was, that was all in practice and preseason games. Could he transfer that to regular season games? The 3 games he's been in, the New England game, even though he threw 2 picks, he showed signs of this skill set. We all know what happened in that Cincinnati game where he was outstanding. And then he did get hurt in their last game against Indianapolis, but he was in for 2 drives. The second drive, 10 plays, 75 yards, marched him right down the field. So he kind of picked up where he left off from the Cincinnati game. So we're starting to see that this might not be a fluke. There might be something there.
Yeah. I find it really interesting. Like you say, you see guys in practice, but we've all been there. You've seen guys that look good. And then you go, part of you thinks, at least I do, like, all right, but nobody's really giving him a shot. Like you think like what the coaches may think about the player. But that transition from practice, being a good guy, maybe running the scout team, all that stuff, to not only showing signs, but I mean, performing at the level he did, especially in that Cincinnati game. Do you think it's even surprised the Jets and maybe Joe Douglas, the fact that they got a guy that could play that well with that little experience in the league?
Yeah, when it comes to the quarterback position, you've seen it in Buffalo over and over again. I've seen it with the Jets. You pick guys in the first round, they don't work out because until they actually play in NFL games, you don't know if they can do it. They might have dominated in college against weak defenses and vanilla schemes. They might have done well in practice, been all St. John's Fisher, all that kind of stuff. And with the Jets, all Florham Park. But then when the lights come on and opposing defenses are disguising things and opposing pass rushers are trying to take your head off, it's a whole different game. This guy has been able to function in the games. I think he was a little underrated coming out of college because he made some dubious college choices. He went to South Florida, University of South Florida. That program has been struggling for a while. Then he transferred to Western Kentucky, a program that the year he was there had a very bad offensive line, so he had no time to throw, and he took an awful beating. So sometimes when you look at college quarterbacks, you have to look at the landscape they were in and say, you know what? He wasn't dealt the best hand. He didn't make the best choices, but he's probably a little better than the game film would say. And I think that's the case with this guy. 6'5", about 230, can make all the throws, is very smart.
Yeah, it's interesting. It sounds a little bit like you're describing what Josh Allen went through being at Wyoming, maybe not the greatest talent around him, but he was considered that guy coming into the draft. And here you go with a guy who slips to the 5th round and has bounced around a little bit. You said about drafting. Obviously, they drafted Zach Wilson high in the draft, first pick. What's this done for him being out with the injury and having another young, but a guy who's been around a little bit, quarterback play? The dynamic of Wilson now with the franchise while we get a chance to see White play.
Well, it's a complicated situation, but it could be a real positive for one for them down the road because we all know what a commodity quarterbacks are. This is pretty far down the road. It's not going to happen, obviously, during the season, the trade deadline passed, but maybe down the road, if Wilson continues to develop and White continues doing what he's doing, they could put themselves in a position to make a blockbuster trade. You know, you look at Ron Wolf, the former Packers GM, he used to bring in quarterbacks and trade them. You know, when you look at Mark Brunell and Brooks and some of the other guys, Hasselbeck, he made a living out of that in terms of getting a lot of extra draft picks and building very strong Packer teams. That's way down the road. This kind of came out of left field. So it's easy for people like us in the media or sports writers to say, just put Zach Wilson back in. How do you do that based on what Mike White did?
Yeah.
You could lose the locker room. And when you look at the situation with Zach Wilson, maybe it's good for him to sit for a while. This is a guy who came out after his junior year at a BYU, a program that had to put together a makeshift schedule. They were playing Texas State, Troy, Western Kentucky, programs like that. He lit them up. Big jump from Troy and Western Kentucky to playing the Bills defense under Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier and Bill Belichick's defense. So maybe sitting for a while will be good for him, but it's not an easy situation as far as what they're going to do in 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's a good one potentially down the road, but right now it could cause a major quarterback controversy in a market, New York City, that loves that story.
It's kind of funny that you're saying that maybe down the road the Jets would have a commodity to trade. The Jets having a surplus of quarterbacks would certainly be an interesting change for what it's been over the last period of time.
Yeah, no question. This situation is one we haven't seen a lot of. What Mike White does that I haven't seen from a lot of these quarterbacks that I've covered, probably since Chad Pennington, he goes through his progression so well. And people say he's good at reading defenses. Why can't everybody do that? Why can't the coaches teach the quarterbacks to read defenses better? They can't. You could be in the classroom and you could teach them what to look for in practice with the red jersey on the quarterback, and you can't touch the quarterback. They can go through their progressions. But on game day, with the opposing defense coming after you and the pressure amped up, a lot of these guys fixate on their first read. You've seen it with Buffalo quarterbacks. I've seen it with Jet quarterbacks. I am very, very surprised at how smooth Mike White has been. 1, 2, 3, check down. I mean, I'm not saying he looks like Tom Brady. It's too early to say that. But the way he goes through his progressions is what you see from the great quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. He has a long way to get to that level, but the progression thing's very impressive.
Yeah. I mean, the next step, obviously, as he's playing is, there's more tape out on him. Teams try to adjust to what he does. But I want to go back to Zach Wilson a little bit, how he's handled things as a rookie, getting thrown in there, because at some point he's going to play. So, what have you seen out of him and how has he handled things? Because here in Buffalo, I mean, Josh Allen went through a lot in his rookie year, started out as third string, quickly became the starter. I mean, literally, second half of the first game, they moved him up to backup. Then he starts, and then he started since then. And he went through a lot of ups and downs. What have you seen, like personality wise and everything, out of a guy like Zach Wilson?
It's harder these days, Mike, as a veteran reporter to really get to know any of these guys. There's no locker room access. And to say somebody based on a weekly press conference would be misleading the public. You really don't get to know them. So it's harder these days to discern what the guy is all about personally and with his teammates because you're never around the guy in the locker room with his teammates. I think he's handled things fairly well. I wouldn't have started him as a rookie. I think that he wasn't instant coffee. He needed to sit, especially with that level of competition and the fact that he came out after his junior year. Bill Parcells always used to say about quarterbacks, he wanted to draft seniors and he wanted to draft 5 4-year starters. It's harder to do that now. I think it was 3-year starters, actually. But in the case of Mac Jones, I know he was a 2-year starter, but he was a senior and he played in the SEC against Ole Miss and LSU and Florida and some very good programs. I think The fact that Zach Wilson came out after his junior year and the fact that the schedule was not difficult, perhaps he should have sat this year. And you know what? I know this could be second guessing, but I did tweet it at times last year and got destroyed on Twitter. Mike, you know about that sort of dynamic, right? I said at some point when Sam Darnold was playing, why not let Mike White go in there and play a little bit? The fans thought that I had three eyes. Seriously, they looked at me like, you're crazy, because I had seen it in practice. I'm like, give the guy a chance. Maybe if they had done this in 2020, put Mike White out there for a couple of games, maybe they don't have to pick a quarterback in the first round this year. Maybe they knew what they had a little more in terms of Mike White. But I think Zach Wilson sitting for a while would be good for him, get a different view from the sidelines, and maybe come back stronger.
Let's look at the team overall. Obviously, major changes. The head coach, your impressions of how he's handled things. I look at the record, and you see some, up and down performances, but a couple of impressive wins, like the one over the Titans. How has Salah been as a head coach, first time, and running a program like the Jets?
Well, we know, Mike, and any first year head coach will tell you that things happen along the way that you don't expect. You could take all kinds of notes over the years and talk to mentors, but you don't see a lot of these things coming until you're actually doing the job. So I think he's had some bumps in the road along the way. I think he's a great motivator. I think the players play very hard for him. Even in these debacles recently, it was not an effort issue in games against Indianapolis and New England where they got blown out. It's not an effort thing. There's a difference between playing hard and playing smart. And especially on defense, they have players out of position a lot, players taking missteps. You saw those big runs against New England and Indianapolis. You saw guys wide open on third down on passing plays. They've got major issues on defense. And I think a lot of it's related to players more than coaches. Now, we could say the coaches should coach them up better, but you can't teach instincts. And I think next offseason, they got to load up on instinctive defensive players. Even if they don't, if a linebacker runs 4.6, not 4.4, but he's always in position, that's better than a 4.4 linebacker who's out of position, plays like he's 4.9. Jets have too many guys running around out there without a plan. So I think Robert Saleh, he made his bones on defense. So the way the defense is playing is not the best reflection on him. But I think next offseason, he and Joe Douglas will make the requisite changes to fix that defense. The problem is when you have a broken defense and you're in the middle or early November, where are you going to get the pieces to fix it? It's like the Bills' offensive line. Where are they going to turn in early November to find a new guard or a new tackle? You can't do it. So some of the Jets' issues on defense are things that need to be fixed in the offseason. So I think Salah is a good motivator. He's a good leader of men. He's an alpha dog. But his wheelhouse, the defensive side of the ball, which he runs with Jeff Ulbrich, that needs to improve.
Yeah, it sounds similar in a way to when, Sean McDermott started. And a focus for McDermott that first year is, and he brings it up all the time, is building a culture. And these franchises have both experienced Rex as a head coach. I mean, the Bills had him right before they brought McDermott in, but that was a big focus point on McDermott. And there's only 8 guys left, and we were just in Jacksonville from when the Bills played the Jags in that playoff game the first year that McDermott was here to now. But I do sense that year was a building of a culture, a standard that they wanted. And then you bring in players, and the way this league is, it's a constant change of a roster. It's not like guys are there for 5 years all the time. Do you sense that? Again, not being in the locker room, it does make it different, but do you sense that that's a focus of Salah, trying to build what he wants the Jets culture to be and then get the players to fit it?
Yeah, that's a huge part of what they're doing. And when you look at the transition to Salah's program, one big problem for the GM, Joe Douglas, and Salah to a degree is the timing of the hiring of Salah and Douglas was not aligned. Douglas was hired when Adam Gase was the coach. So in his first real draft, because Douglas did not run the draft in 2019, he came in June. The draft had already been done. Free agency had already been taken care of. So his first full draft was 2020. He was picking players for Adam Gase's style offense and Greg Williams' style of defense. A year later, They bring in Robert Saleh, brings in that Pete Carroll type defense that he used in San Francisco, looking for totally different kind of players, smaller runaround linebackers, the Matt Milano type guys. That's what he's looking for, quicker defensive tackles to hit gaps as opposed to two gapping. So when you draft for one type of system or systems on both sides of the ball in 2020, then in 2021, you're looking for different types of players. I'll give you an example. Mekhi Becton's a very good player, but you don't have 380-pound left tackles in the zone blocking scheme that coordinator Mike LaFleur brought with him from San Francisco. So what's going to happen with Mekhi Becton moving forward? He was a good fit for Gase's offense, but a year later, they blow up the offense and change everything. But as far as the culture, you could tell by their free agent class in 2021 and their draft class in 2021, they really focused on certain type of people. You look at, Michael Carter, the running back, or Elijah Vera Tucker, who quietly is having a very good season. The offensive guard at USC, they picked with their second first-round pick after Zach Wilson. They traded up for him. He looks like he's going to be living in Hawaii in the Pro Bowl down the road. Good guys, focused, hard workers, love football. You could see that throughout the draft class in 21 and the free agent class, but they still have a lot of work to do as they continue to turn over the roster.
Yeah. Roster-wise, the Bills fans, are going to watch the Jets, obviously, coming up this weekend. I think I saw like that maybe Corey Davis going to get back to practice, the guys that they may know, but who would be the players offensively that Mike White's got at his disposal that the Bills should be concerned about on defense?
Yeah, Elijah Moore is another player from that first draft with Salah and Douglas together. I know Elijah Moore got a bad rap because of that touchdown celebration at Ole Miss, but he's not that kind of guy. He's a good character guy. He made a mistake on that one play that became a national story, but good character guy, very good receiver. Probably should have gone in the first round. They got him at the top of the second round. He's really emerged the last few weeks. Very hard to cover, 4.3 speed, quick in and out of his breaks, good route runner for his age. So Elijah Moore is a guy to keep an eye on. A very underrated player, played for the team that you were down watching last week for 4 years. Keelan Cole is a very good receiver. They signed a free agency, catches everything thrown his way, good route runner. He's another guy to keep an eye on. Michael Carter, the running back, the fourth-round pick out of UNC, deceptively strong. Some people would say he's a smaller scat back. He's shorter, but he's not small. I mean, he's over 200 pounds at 5'8", breaks a ton of tackles, gets under the pad level of defenders, and before you know it, you think it plays a 1-yard gain, and it's a 5-yard gain. The offensive line is not bad. It really is not bad. George Fant, who has taken over from Mekhi Becton at left tackle, the former Seahawk, he's made himself a lot of money in free agency next offseason because he played very well at left tackle. Morgan Moses is a good right tackle. Good offensive line, some good weapons in the passing game. And as we mentioned before, Mike White does a nice job getting a lot of these weapons involved, spreading the ball around.
Fan base wise, where are, I know you can't speak for everybody, but a general sense of where are Jets fans? There's been a lot of disappointment, much like Buffalo went through for a long period of time until they finally appear to be getting it right and have gotten it right. Where are they now? Is it optimism? Has there ever been a part? I don't sense it as much, but has there ever been a part where people become just disconnected because it hasn't gone the right way? Is bringing in Salah, making the draft, seeing some flashes, is that enough right now for Jets fans to be hopeful as to what they're doing?
Well, I think Jet fans have mixed emotions now. The way the defense is playing is really bothering them, and it should. The New England game and the Indianapolis game were like a 7-on-7 drill in practice where the offense plays the defense. For fans that don't know, and most Buffalo fans know, there's no lines. So it's a lot of easy throws and catches in a 7-on-7 practice drill. That's what the Indianapolis and second New England game looked like. So the defense is a mess right now. So that's bothering the fans. But, just like with Josh Allen, I know he's not coming off the best game, but just in general, Bills fans are very happy with Josh Allen. This is a quarterback-driven league, the NFL. If you have a quarterback, you have hope. So the way I look at the Jets right now, if Mike White continues doing what he's doing and Zach Wilson continues to improve, they'll have to make some tough decisions there. But it looks like they could finally have a quarterback after a lot of years of searching. So if they have a quarterback, we all know that's the most important position. You can fill in the other spots. You can fix the defense next offseason. You can get perhaps a bigger weapon at tight end, whatever the list of needs is. But if you have that quarterback, that is the starting point, and you can make the rest of it work. And it looks like there's a good chance they have a quarterback, whether it's Mike White continuing to do what he does or Zach Wilson continuing to develop. So I think the Jet fans are excited about the quarterback position. They're obviously very upset about the defense. That we'll see what they can do against Josh Allen, but not to get too far ahead of ourselves now. This defense can have decent games when the opposing offensive line is not great. So you know where I'm going with this,
Yeah.
Mike. The game against the Bengals that surprised the football world, the Bengals offensive line is the weak point of that team. The Jets pushed them around. When Joe Burrow had time to throw, he found open receivers. Tennessee Titan game, the Titans line was not very good. The Jets dominated their right tackle, Quisenberry, and that was a key to that game. Also, both their starting receivers were out, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. That didn't help. So the point is, I think the Jets matchup with the Bills could be a good one for the Jets. I'm not predicting a Jets win, but the Jets defense can function on a higher level when the opposing offensive line is not great and the opposing quarterback doesn't have 10 seconds to throw. So that's the kind of matchup where the Jets defense doesn't embarrass itself when there's less time to throw for the quarterback against a weak offensive line.
And that leads me right in what we ask every week, and it happens to be 3 straight weeks where the Bills have been double-digit favorites. Struggled in the first game, lost the second game, and here they are again. But you gave a pretty good synopsis. But in terms of for a Jets upset, what would it take on Sunday down at the Meadowlands?
Well, their defensive line was embarrassed against New England, and then they bounced back in that Cincinnati game. You know how defensive linemen are, the big guys up front. Motivation is huge, because you're moving around a 300-pound body. You really need to be motivated. That's why so many defensive line coaches are those fire-breathing guys. So I think the Jets coach is Salah, their defensive line coach, Aaron Whitecotton, who used to be a Bills assistant. Those guys are going to be playing with their hair on fire this week. So that's not good news for the Bills offensive line, which has been struggling. And the Jets are very strong on the interior of their defensive line with Quinnen Williams and Sheldon Rankins. So that could be a problem if the Bills, I believe Feliciano is going to be out a while. They're going to be playing a backup guard. That could be a problem there. So the Jets' big chance in this game is Mike White playing like he did against the Bengals and then that one series against the Colts, and their defensive line dominating the game from beginning 10. Because if Josh Allen has time to throw in this game, this Jets pass defense is perhaps the worst in the league in terms of covering tight ends and receivers and running backs. Guys are wide open all the time. So if the Bills can figure out a way to protect better than Jacksonville, I think the Bills will win this game, because if you could protect against the Jets, you could throw on them all day.
Yeah, well, that's been the problem for the Bills. We talked before about Bills fans traveling. Obviously, coming down to Jersey is not a bad trip for them to make. They try to get tickets and get in there. So, atmosphere-wise, what do they see when they get to MetLife Stadium if Bills fans are making the trip down there in terms of the way the fan base will be in the stadium? And now that the Bills have struggled over the last couple of weeks, thinking they got a shot to pull off an upset.
Well, they had the chance of Mike White going in the Bengal game in his first start as an NFL player. So if he plays like he did, I don't expect him to play like he did against the Bengals game. His jersey and helmet are in the Hall of Fame for that performance because he set certain records for a first-time starter. So I don't expect that. But if he plays anywhere near that level, the place will be rocking, because they've really taken a liking to this quarterback. It's not that they don't like Zach Wilson, but when a quarterback comes out in his first start and plays that way, that really juices up the fans. So even though the team is struggling and they're at the bottom, actually, Miami's in last place, right?
Yeah. Well, I think they both have 2 wins, right?
Okay, so they both have 2 wins. So at the bottom of the division and struggling on defense, But if Mike White does what he does, throwing Elijah Moore, who the fans love, and Michael Carter does what he does, it'll be a positive vibe from Jet fans. They just want the team to be competitive. You know what it's like. In a rebuilding year, fans don't expect you to go to the Super Bowl, but they don't expect you to be putting up 50 points here, 50 points there, giving up over 500 yards. It's how it looks, Mike. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's how the losses look or how the close wins look. And those recent games did not pass the smell test. So as long as the Jets are competitive and Mike White plays in a similar fashion to some of the previous games, the fans will be into the game and it'll be a loud crowd.
Well, this has been great, and I really appreciate it. I want you to let Bills fans know because they love to keep up with what's going on in the division, what's going on with teams. Let them know a little bit about Jets Confidential and where they can hear you with Vic.
Yeah, I've been on so many different streets in Rochester where our offices were bouncing around Winton and in Henrietta, and now we're over in Victor. So I know all the towns and all the streets down there, all the good restaurants. And I love Rochester. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on a Rochester show. Mike, I love Rochester. And I think it's a very underrated place. I know the people up there don't want me to say that too loud and people start moving there, but Rochester, one of the underrated places to live in the country. So I love my visits up there, seeing you, seeing the different people, and going to my office in Victor. But anyone that wants to subscribe can go to jetsconfidential.com. There's a way to subscribe on there, or call our toll-free number, and our very friendly Rochester-based people running the office who will pick up the phone at 1-800-932-4557. That's 1-800-932-4557. And the guys I love working with up there, Dave, you know them all. Dave
Yep.
Altman,
Oh, yeah.
pride and joy of Hornell, New York. Dave Jones, Brian Spindler, good people up there.
Yeah. And on Twitter to follow you?
Oh, of course, you can't leave that out.
Yes.
I love Mike Catalan on Twitter, very controversial. He loves his covering Buffalo and he loves his Philly teams and
Yeah.
Joel Embiid. You can follow me at Jets Whispers. That's Jets with an S, Whispers, at Jets Whispers.
Great. And then you're on with Vic. That's every
Oh,
Saturday,
yeah,
right?
every
Yeah.
Saturday, 11 to 2 Eastern on Sirius XM NFL Radio, Channel 88. The legendary Vic Carucci, longtime Bills writer in Western New York for the Buffalo News, and now with that TV station up there, and in
Yeah.
the Utica Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Wow.
Are you
All
in
over
any
the place.
sports? Are you in any Hall of Fame, Mike?
Yeah, a couple, a couple in the Rochester area, and I'm actually getting inducted into front one in my hometown of Bridgeton, New Jersey. How about that?
Very
The
nice.
Sports
Maybe
Hall
I'll
of Fame.
go as a Jersey native.
That,
I'll have to
well,
check that out.
yeah, I'm down in the sticks of Jersey where I came from. So we'll see. Hey, we'll be down there. I will see you on Sunday to see what happens at MetLife Stadium, and looking forward to it. And thanks again for being on.
Anytime, Mike.
All right. This is great. And remember, to all of you, thanks for tuning in. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment. We have plenty of content on the Bills, what's going on this week, and our takes on the Bills as they get set for the Jets game coming up on Sunday. Thanks for watching. We'll check you out the next time.